My supervisor shouted across the office. Guess who forgot to CC the right manager again? Someone give her a participation trophy. I froze as everyone stared, some snickering as he added, maybe we should start a kindergarten class for her. I said nothing, went back to my desk, and spent 3 days meticulously following his terrible orders word for word. When the project crashed and burned, I had every receipt to prove I had done exactly what he demanded. I've worked at this mid-sized marketing company in Raleigh, North Carolina for over 5 years. I'm not someone who causes drama. I show up on time, do my job, meet deadlines, and go home. I don't gossip, I don't party with coworkers, and I don't brown nose. I just do the work. For the most part, things were fine. Not perfect, but decent. I liked most of the people. I liked the clients. My manager, before everything went sideways, was strict but fair. I could breathe. Then Travis showed up. They brought him in after my old manager left suddenly for a job in Florida. Travis was hired to streamline our project workflows and lead high-stakes client campaigns. That was the buzz anyway. What we got was a complete disaster in a collared shirt. From the first week, I knew it was going to be a problem. He didn't ask questions, he gave orders. Loudly. He came from a big agency in Texas and he made sure everyone knew it. Back at Vortage, he'd say, name-dropping the firm every 5 minutes. We would have been 10 steps ahead by now. He said we were too slow, too careful, too soft. He wanted quick results. He didn't care how. He especially didn't care about getting the details right. And that's the one thing I was known for, being careful. I worked mostly on client coordination. That meant staying in touch with the client reps, relaying their notes to our designers and copywriters, keeping timelines clean, and making sure all emails hit the right inboxes. Some clients were chill. Some, like the grocery chain we were working with at the time. Let's call them Palmetto grocers. Were not. Palmetto had rules. Every campaign update had to go through Sherry, the brand manager. And she wanted her boss Joel CC'd on every single email. Not just the big ones. Every change. Every milestone. Even the subject line drafts. Joel was the type who liked knowing everything. I'd been managing that smoothly for months before Travis arrived. Once he took over, he started interfering. Stop wasting time CCing that Joel guy, he said in one meeting. He's just overhead. Sherry's the one with taste. Joel slows things down. I told him the client wanted it that way. He waved it off. Trust me, I've handled way bigger accounts than this. Do it my way. So I did. I have that Slack message saved. No more CCing Joel unless it's major. Got it. I got it. But then a week later it blew up in my face. I had just sent an update about the campaign's visual timeline. Something small about adjusting a delivery date by 2 days. Harmless. I sent it to Sherry and didn't CC Joel, just like Travis told me. Next morning, Travis stomped across the office. He looked pissed. I had no idea what was coming. He stopped in front of my desk and turned to face the whole team. Everyone froze. Then he said in this mocking tone, "Guess who forgot to CC the right manager again? Someone give her a participation trophy." People looked around nervously. A few chuckled. I felt my face turn red. I stared at my screen and didn't move. He wasn't done. Maybe we should start a kindergarten class for her. Crayons and glue sticks in conference be people. More laughing. Louder now. A few heads turned away awkwardly. I didn't say a word. I just sat there, hands on the keyboard, staring at the email I had just written minutes before. I didn't cry. I didn't defend myself. I didn't even look at him. Instead, I made a quiet decision. If he wanted things done his way, I would do them exactly his way. I would follow his chaotic, sloppy instructions to the letter. No corrections. No questions. No safety nets. For the next 3 days, I kept my head down. I saved everything. I screenshotted every Slack message, every forwarded email, every change in instruction he gave out loud during meetings. I used a little app that timestamped my desktop activities. I created a separate folder on my desktop called Travis Orders. Do not modify. And I obeyed every one of his terrible decisions. He told me to skip the second proofing round. I skipped it. He told me to push the client presentation forward even though half the slides were incomplete. I sent it. He told me to trim the fat on our outline by removing client comments. Deleted. He told me to stop including the marketing team lead in the email loop because she was a buzzkill. I cut her out. Every time I did something I knew was going to backfire. I added a note in my personal log. Per Travis 10:14 a.m. Said not to include Sarah's edits. I didn't warn anyone. I didn't try to fix anything behind the scenes. And guess what? It all blew up. On Friday morning, we got a full-blown firestorm email from Joel, the client's VP. He was pissed. Said they were deeply disappointed, that the campaign was not aligned with brand expectations, and that they were re-evaluating the relationship. Sherry followed up an hour later, trying to smooth it over, but even she was clearly confused and annoyed. Why weren't we consulted before the visual style changed? Why was this version sent out before approval? Why was our slogan suggestion ignored? I didn't answer. I forwarded everything to Travis. Later that day, the director of our department pulled everyone into a meeting. We sat in the big glass-walled conference room. Travis was already there, pacing. He had a folder and a fake calm face. The director asked what happened. Travis launched into his speech. We've had some confusion on the execution side. I've been trying to push efficiency, but it seems like some people went off script. He glanced at me like I was some intern who forgot to print handouts. I stayed quiet. Then the director looked at me and asked, "Is that true?" I nodded. I did exactly what Travis told me to do. He smirked. That's not. I cut him off. I have proof. I opened my laptop. I shared my screen on the room's monitor. I opened my folder. First, I showed the Slack message telling me not to CC Joel. Then I pulled up the time-stamped log of instructions from every day that week, matched with screenshots of my actual work. Then I handed out printed copies of the email threads, with highlighted notes showing every change he told me to make. Silence. The director sat back in his chair, arms crossed. You've been tracking all of this? I said, after I got publicly humiliated in front of the whole office. Yes. I started keeping records. No one looked at Travis. He sat stiff, his face turning red. He tried to talk, but the director just raised a hand and said, "We're done here. You can step out." Travis stood. He looked at me. I stared right back. He left the room without saying a word. And that was the last time I ever saw him in that office. After that meeting, everything changed, but not all at once. Travis was gone the next day. No goodbye email, no final meeting. HR told us he decided to pursue other opportunities. That was the official story. But everyone knew. You could feel it in the office. People weren't sad. They weren't even relieved. It was like the air had shifted, quiet but tense. Like we were all waiting for something else to fall. At first, I thought it was over. I thought I had survived the storm. I was wrong. Because when someone like Travis gets fired, people don't just let it go. Someone up the ladder always wants to know, why did this happen? Who let it happen? Who's really to blame? And the person who embarrassed a senior hire in front of a director? That person becomes a target. It started small. One of the IT guys, I'll call him Ray, told me he'd been asked to audit email logs connected to the campaign project. Nothing shady, he said. Just standard protocol, after a failure like that. Fine. I had nothing to hide. Then I got pulled into a follow-up meeting with the director and someone from HR. They said it was just a routine review, but they kept asking strange questions. Would you describe your working relationship with Travis as respectful? Did you ever feel like you were being treated unfairly before the incident? Why didn't you bring your concerns forward sooner? I answered honestly, but I could feel it. They were trying to see if I had a grudge, if I'd been waiting for Travis to screw up. Maybe they thought I set him up. It didn't stop there. 1 week later, 2 of my projects were reassigned. I asked my supervisor, a woman named Mia, why. She said upper management wanted to redistribute workloads. But the new assignments they gave me were way smaller. Less important. Busy work. I'd gone from leading major client campaigns to organizing internal workflow charts. Then came the rumors. I overheard one of the newer employees talking near the printer. She didn't see me. They said she tracked everything like she was building a case. Like, who does that? It's kind of weird. She's probably just pissed she got yelled at. I walked away before they noticed me. My heart was pounding. So now I wasn't just the quiet, reliable one anymore. I was the office snitch. The one with the receipts. The one people watched when they talked too loud in Slack. Even Mia, who used to be nice to me, started holding me at arm's length. I tried to focus. I told myself to ride it out. Let the dust settle. But it didn't settle. It got worse. One afternoon, I opened my calendar and saw a meeting invite I hadn't expected. It was from upper management, a man named Blake I'd only met once months ago. The title of the invite said, Review of Performance and Role Alignment. I sat in that meeting across from Blake and Mia. Blake didn't waste time. We've been reviewing team structure and long-term efficiency. After some discussion, we've decided to offer you a transition into a new role. It was a demotion. They called it lateral realignment, but it was clear. Less responsibility, smaller accounts, a new title that didn't include project lead. I asked why. Blake gave me a corporate answer. We think your skill set would be better utilized in a more supportive role. Supportive role. After 5 years. After I saved the company from a total disaster. After I protected them by showing them the truth. They were trying to shove me out without firing me. That night I sat in my car in the parking lot for over an hour. I didn't cry. I didn't call anyone. I just sat there, staring at the building, thinking about how fast it had all flipped. I wasn't angry yet. Not really. I was stunned. But the anger came. When I got home, I opened a bottle of wine and pulled out my personal laptop. I opened the folder I'd saved after the Travis situation, the one with all the files. Then I opened another folder, one I hadn't touched in over a year. A while back, before Travis came along, I'd been on a side team that helped audit internal project timelines and cost estimates. I'd seen things: sloppy billing, duplicate charges, some questionable vendor invoices. At the time I flagged it to Mia and was told it's being handled. I let it go. Now I remembered. And I dug deeper. I still had the documents, PDFs, spreadsheets, email threads, backdated approvals. It wasn't fraud exactly, but it was bad, incompetent, maybe even unethical. And it all pointed to the same small circle of people: Blake, Mia, and a guy in finance named Don. So now I had two choices: let them shove me into a corner, label me a problem, and quietly disappear, or fight back. Not the way Travis did, loud and messy. My way. Quiet. Careful. Documented. The next Monday I showed up like nothing had changed. I took the new role they gave me without arguing. I smiled in meetings. I answered emails quickly. I made sure to always sound positive and team-oriented. But at night I worked on something else. I started building a timeline: clean, detailed, professional. Not just about Travis. This one was about how certain projects had gone over budget, how certain vendor contracts were signed without proper approval, how money had shifted around under the label of operational efficiency. It wasn't illegal yet, but it looked bad. It looked careless. And it was all tied to decisions Blake and Mia had made quietly over the past year. And then I got lucky. One of my old coworkers, a guy named Sean from accounting, reached out to me on Teams. We used to chat now and then about office politics, nothing deep. He messaged me after a late meeting and asked how I was doing. I kept it casual. Hanging in. He didn't. He said, "Word is you're being phased out." I waited. Then he added, "Don't tell anyone I said this, but Blake's been telling people you created a toxic atmosphere when Travis got fired, that you were trying to undermine leadership." I stared at the message. My hands went cold. I asked him, "Why would they say that?" Sean's response was fast. "Because you made them look weak." That's when I knew. This wasn't about Travis anymore. This was about control. They didn't like that I had power, even a little. Even when I used it to help. They were smearing me to justify pushing me out. So that no one would ask questions. So that when I left they could act like I'd been the problem all along. Fine. Let them. I smiled again in the morning meeting. Took notes. Said, "Thanks for the feedback. when Mia corrected my formatting on a throwaway status report. And every night I worked on the timeline. I started organizing it like a case file. Week 1. Project A's budget exceeded by $19,000. Vendor change not logged. Week 3. Invoice approved retroactively. No paper trail on revised scope. Week 5. Finance override logged under miscellaneous services. Dawn from finance signed off. Email shows Mia pushed it through. Line by line I pieced it all together. Then I did something quiet but risky. I emailed myself everything. From my personal account. Encrypted zip files. Different names. Multiple backups. Then I uploaded it to a private drive under a dummy name I'd created months ago when I was applying for other jobs. Just in case. Because this wasn't just about revenge now. This was about not letting them erase me. I wasn't just going to survive this. I was going to leave a mark. Then something I didn't expect happened. Sherry called me. Yes, that's Sherry, the client brand manager from Palmetto Grocers. She asked how I was doing. I told her carefully. Things have been different, she said. That's what I heard. I paused. From who? She said. Joel asked me last week if you were still with your company. He was surprised you hadn't been promoted after handling that mess. I didn't answer right away. Then she said, would you be interested in a position here? I froze. She continued, you'd be internal managing brand campaigns. It's more responsibility than what you were doing. We've got budget approval. You'd be reporting to me directly. And I trust you. I asked for a day to think about it. But I already knew. Still, I had one last thing to do. One last move before I left. I took the job. I didn't even wait a full day to think it over. I called Sherry that evening and said yes. She told me they'd fast-track the paperwork. The offer came through the next morning. $18,500 more than I was making, full benefits, remote flexibility, and the best part, full creative oversight of 3 major campaigns. But I didn't turn in my 2 weeks right away. I needed to finish what I started. That afternoon, I put on my usual work face. Sat through meetings. Took notes. Replied with sounds good. To things I knew were absolutely not good. Then I called Sean. I told him I appreciated the heads up about Blake and Mia. I also told him I knew about the financial mess they'd created. I didn't threaten him. I'm not like that, but I made it clear. I had proof. He didn't get defensive. He didn't even sound surprised. He said, yeah, I figured someone had it. Then I asked him one question. Would you anonymously verify it if I needed you to? He paused a long time. Then said, if it's going to the right place, yeah, I would. The next day, I handed in my 2-week notice. Mia blinked when I said it. I told her I'd been offered another job and was ready for something new. I smiled the whole time. She nodded too fast. Of course. Of course. Well, we'll make the transition as smooth as possible. Her eyes were already screaming panic. Within hours, I saw them moving. I got a call from Blake. We're sorry to hear you're leaving. If there's anything we can do to keep you. No thank you, I said. I'm really looking forward to the next chapter. Then I logged off for the day. That night, I uploaded the files. I had already prepped a full package. The internal emails, invoice patterns, contract inconsistencies, payment logs, timeline breakdowns, and of course a cover letter. But I didn't send it to HR. Nope. I sent it directly to the company's external compliance auditor. A third-party firm that reviewed financials once a quarter. The one that had cleared us 6 months earlier, but only because they'd been given carefully cleaned reports. This time I gave them the real ones. I didn't sign my name, but I did include one line at the end. If you need help understanding any of these files, reach out to Sherry, last name, brand manager at Palmetto Grocers. She's familiar with how these mistakes affected her campaign. I texted her later just a heads up. She replied with a single sentence. Understood. I'll be ready. What happened next unraveled fast. 3 days before my last day, the office went into full lockdown mode. I walked in and saw people whispering by the coffee machine. One of the graphic designers leaned over and said, "Did you hear? Audit team showed up unannounced." By noon, Don from finance had cleared out his desk. He didn't even look at anyone. Just packed a box and left. By the end of the day, Blake's calendar had been restricted, and he didn't show up to his usual 4 p.m. check-in. That evening, I got a message from Sean. They're pulling everything. Legal's involved. The day before my last, Mia cornered me near the printer. She looked tired. Sweating. Hey, she said. Just wanted to say, no hard feelings. You've been great. I looked at her, held her gaze and said, you too. Best of luck. I wanted her to wonder. I wanted her to not be sure if I'd done anything, or if it was all just karma. Then I left for good. At Palmetto, I started fresh. It was better, smarter, saner. I was trusted, listened to, given freedom to lead without being undercut or humiliated. And Joel, the VP, personally welcomed me with a handshake that lasted longer than it should have. I was waiting for the day we could work together, he said. But it didn't end there. A month into my new job, the ripple effects from my old company hit the news. A small blurb in a regional business journal. Mid-tier marketing firm under audit review after internal compliance issues surface. 2 senior leaders exit amid investigation. No names. But I knew. And the kicker? They lost the Palmetto account. Joel pulled it a week after I left. Quietly. No announcement. Just a clean break. That loss hurt them more than the audit. Palmetto was their biggest account. Without it, they had to restructure. Let people go. A few of my old coworkers messaged me privately later, asking if I knew what really happened. I didn't answer any of them. Except Sean. I sent him a gift card. Just $50. With a note. For doing the right thing when it counted. And me? I don't keep everything anymore. Not like before. But I still save the things that matter. Because I've learned something. Being quiet doesn't mean being weak. It means waiting for the right time. And when the time comes, you don't raise your voice. You raise the evidence.